All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Trade with AI workshop. I'm Michael, a product marketing manager at Composer, and I also have Anja here with us from the product team. Thank you all for being here. We read through your sign-up responses and designed today's session specifically around your questions. So hopefully by the end of this workshop, you'll not only understand Trade with AI as a feature a bit better, you'll be able to actually find it useful and apply it to your trading process. Now, before we begin, we do have a few important disclosures. The content of this workshop is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as investment, financial, legal, or tax advice. We will be discussing investment strategies and showing hypothetical backtest performance of algorithms. And it is crucial to understand that all investing involves substantial risk, including the possible loss of principal. Past performance, whether actual or back-tested, is not a guarantee of future results. Please do your research and consult with a qualified professional before making any investment decisions. Now, I also want to make a disclaimer on AI. As you may know, AI is very powerful, but it's not a genius oracle. It's better to think of it less like a all-knowing expert and more like a smart intern. It can help you move faster, organize information, and generate ideas, but it still needs your guidance and oversight. Remember, AI-assisted trading is new territory, and we're learning together. So, there might be surprises and bumps along the way, but the ecosystem is developing very quickly, and it's going to be an adventure, and it's really part of the opportunity, right? So, for the next hour or so, we'll be doing a quick intro into why AI for trading. Then we'll go through some of the walkthroughs of the new Trade with AI feature, MCP Server. We'll talk about that as well. And there were also a lot of questions on API access, so we'll talk about that as well. Lastly, Anja will share some details on what's to come for AI on Composer and some other cool features that we have to share. We'll end by answering any other questions in the chat. Throughout the whole session, feel free to ask any questions by typing it in the chat box, and we'll try to get to them as soon as we can. Cool. Anja, do you have anything to add to that?
Hey everybody, my name is Anja. I'm on the product team here at Composer. I may have interacted with you in the past, maybe through user interviews or elsewhere. I've been part of the company for a long time. And we would love to share what's next and also get your feedback. So if you have questions throughout, if you have ideas for us, throw them in the chat and we'll answer what we can here and take the rest with us.
Okay, awesome. And I see there's 67 people joined, so welcome everybody. Okay, let's get started. So first off, let's start by answering the question that we've been hearing. One of the questions that we've been hearing a lot is why AI for trading and why now? Also, why does Composer even need AI? Is this just jumping on an AI trend? And honestly, that's a fair question. AI does have some hype fatigue right now, I would say, but for trading, AI is really an amplifier of your capabilities and your capacity. From this chart below, we can see how the AI, or labeled as the LLM in this case, is quite a central actor in this entire trading flow, and it helps traders at every step of the process. In particular, one important facet of trading, I believe, is information processing, right? It's all about finding data, researching markets, and using that information to come up with ideas, then backtesting them to potentially validate those ideas, and then executing those ideas. And as conditions change, traders will do this process again to adjust their strategy. But if we rewind just a few years before AI was even available, I would say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, this kind of workflow would have taken multiple systems, multiple programs, a lot of manual work, coding, and potentially a full team to even operate that, right? Which is why at that time, only hedge funds or big trading firms had access to this. Now today with AI, combined with Composer, which we can see here, this is the Composer infrastructure, like the deterministic trading engine, trade clearing and settlement, as well as the post-trade reporting. All of this combined together gives individual traders the kind of research power that used to require a room full of PhDs, right? And it can help traders access institutional style research and execution. And that's exactly aligned with Composer's vision, which is taking the tools and capabilities once reserved for Wall Street and putting them in the hands of everyday traders. We have also built Composer with a foundation that allows it to benefit from the recent improvements in LLM performance, such as the Composer Symphony language. For those who are new here, a symphony is essentially an automated strategy on Composer. We call them symphonies. So the Composer Symphony language allows LLMs to create automated strategies that can reliably trade. Automated trading as well to account for realities like regulatory fees, corporate actions, etc., and also a brokerage to execute automated trades. So Composer is the only platform where AI can build, backtest, and automate these trading strategies. Here's a quote from our CEO, Ben, in his recent blog post on AI's effect on markets. We'll also share a link to that blog in the chat here. So quote, "Instead of having humans parse through mounds of data and hand code algorithms, we will see humans delegate much of that heavy lifting to AI agents that specialize in trading. The trading agent will query various data sources, construct a trading strategy expressed as an algorithm under the hood, and update its strategy in response to feedback signals from the market. And all of this is done in an autonomous end-to-end loop," unquote. Now, that sounds all really great, but then again, we do want to take a step back and say that AI doesn't magically turn you into a hedge fund, but it does compress time and lower the barrier to structured, systematic thinking. It gives you the speed, the instant research power, and a trading assistant that understands trading, right? It's not replacing your human judgment, but it's expanding your capacity. So next up, that brings me to Composer's journey, right? For folks who are new to Composer, here's a little historical context. We didn't just add AI on top of the app just this past month. We first experimented with AI in 2023 with the Create with AI feature. This still exists, right? If you go to the Symphony editor, we can show this later, but if you go Create Symphony editor, you'll see this Create with AI feature still there. And this helped traders generate automated strategies. We actually still see a lot of symphonies in the database with this created with Composer AI description. So a lot of these strategies that were created by this actually stood the test of time. There were also obviously human creators within the community that also built top performing symphonies that significantly outperformed the market. Now, fast forward to 2025, LLMs are improving at breakneck speed, I would say. They're improving every day. And now they understand financial context, structured logic, and workflows even more profoundly. And at the same time, for a while now, we've been hearing the same feedback, especially with newer users, that the Discover page, the current Discover page, is really overwhelming, and I don't know where to start. So we decided to really bring those two things together. How do we build a feature that applies AI where it's actually useful in discovery, research, and filtering of trading strategies? That's what Trade with AI is, what that feature is really, as you can see from this above image. It's really your new Discover experience that's personalizable to your preferences and can sift through 3,000 plus community-built symphonies in minutes. It can identify and understand trading strategies based on analysis of community-created symphonies that help you build one that fits your preferences. So let's go ahead and try that out. So this is the live walkthrough. You can see on the app, we have Portfolio, Watchlist, Discover. Actually here, this is the Legacy Discover. As you can see, there's a bunch of symphonies. The names are a little bit cryptic, some of them. And it's kind of a little bit hard to filter through them, right? Now with the new Trade with AI, you can start with the first prompt here. We'll start with the help me choose one. So this prompt has actually led to the highest rate of investments for new users so far. So let's go ahead and try that out. So in the beginning, it will ask a few questions to understand my preferences. So the first one is whether I want to find strategies that have historically outperformed the S&P 500 or strategies that have historically moved independently of the S&P 500. As you can see, I would say I'm in my late 20s and I'm somewhat of a risk taker. So I want to find strategies that have outperformed. Okay, now we will choose what kind of stocks I want to trade. what kind of assets I want to trade. For this time, I think I'm just going to kind of go in blind and choose an option to let the AI decide for me. So show me what's working best right now. So as you can see from this process, compared to the legacy Discover that I just showed you, or the current Discover that I just showed you, it's already looking to personalize, a personalized experience based on my preferences, right? So it's already improved. It's already an improved version of the previous Discover. Okay, so it's going to present 3 strategies to me. Great. So it's got 3 strategies for me here. I can take a look at all these 3, look at their fact sheets. It also has AI has actually given me an explanation to all of these strategies based on my preferences, the preferences that I've inputted. So I can view the fact sheet right here to get some more details on the strategy. And let's say today I want to pick one to invest in, right? And maybe let's say my goal here is to try to diversify my portfolio. So let's give it another prompt here. So let's say based on my investments, like my holdings, and my intention to build a portfolio of diversified stocks, which symphony would you pick? Okay, so out of these 3, it's given me this one, the Samurai Surge, and giving me some explanations to why. So it has lower correlation to traditional portfolios with a beta of just 0.33 to the S&P 500. The Samurai Surge historically moves independently of typical US stock holdings. So that offers more diversification. So, first I tried to choose symphonies that have historically outperformed the S&P 500, and now I want to fit one that adds in some diversification as well to my entire portfolio. So great. You can continue the conversation from this and, feel free to just ask it questions, but here's where we're going to stop for this example here. Before we go to the next one, Anja, do you have anything to add, or are there any questions that we should answer?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of questions that have come up. So maybe I'll answer Ben. Ben asked, why is there a search box on the website and mobile app, but not in the web app for searching symphonies by name? So maybe, Michael, if you go over to the legacy Discover here, yep. And if you show the search within best of community right there with the little place there. So let's say we search for Nancy, you can search by name here. So I don't know, Ben, if maybe you didn't see this, or if in case you have a different question, or maybe this doesn't answer your question, let us know. But if you go back to Trade with AI, at the very top, we have the kind of open prompt there. And we have seen people right there, and we have people try to use this as search. So searching for individual symphonies or even individual stocks. So in the future, this isn't something we have yet, but we kind of envision an omni search experience where you could use that area to either search for individual symphonies or individual stocks or anything else. So let us know if that answers your question or if you have a follow-up. And then Steve asked, where do these strategies come from and should we trust them? In Composer, since we started, people have created over 400,000 different symphonies, so automated strategies, and then people have the ability to share them with the community. So if you create a strategy, you can share it, either share a link to someone else or post to the community. So these are all strategies, almost all strategies that people have created from the community. And they do have pretty long out of sample records. So we only publish to the community once the symphony has had a long enough out of sample record. And then for within this experience, we can describe in more detail how the AI is choosing symphonies for you, but basically it's trying to match you symphonies based on your requirements. So if you want more stringent requirements, or if you have particular things in mind, we're trying to match you with symphonies that may be good for you.
Awesome. I do see one other question about, can strategies be intraday? Maybe, I think we're going to talk about a little bit about that towards the end. Okay, we'll say that towards the end then. Okay, great. All right, I'm going to go back to the second walkthrough now. The second one we're going to do is find my first symphony. I would say this one is probably the most popular one amongst users so far. So let's go this one, find my first symphony card. So I would say this one is similar to the I'm feeling lucky button on Google, where you're not really sure what you want to look for, but you just want Composer to give you something. So it will browse through the top performers of public symphonies and surface strategies for you based on live performance of real invested users. So here, there's no questions asked. It will just surface 3 strategies for me and explain each. Now, let's say, we got the hedged sector rotator, the holy grail, nuclear energy with AI explanations for each. Now, let's say I want to invest in one of them, but I want to find the one with the lowest drawdown. So I can follow up with a second question, like which one has the lowest drawdown? Okay, great. So the hedge sector rotator strategy has the lowest maximum drawdown at 19% versus the other two. So obviously I can ask the AI some more questions about more details, but this is pretty good for me. I can go ahead and find this strategy up here, and I can invest, again, add to watch list if I want to just favorite it for now. But I can do it all right inside the chat box. Great. And the last demo I'm going to do is make my own symphony. Or actually, before that, are there any questions for that walkthrough?
We have other questions. Do you want to start answering other questions?
Yeah, sure. If it's unrelated, we can still go through a few of them. Yeah.
All right. So I'm just scrolling back. So Raj asked how often the Discover screen data is updated. So the whole page is updated daily. Some of the metrics like today's change are updated near real time, so multiple times a minute. Aaron asked what's actually behind the model? What's behind the AI? How does it work? So Trade with AI is using Claude Sonnet 4.5, the kind of like older Create with AI experience. So if you were to go into the editor with Create with AI, that's actually using ChatGPT. In the future, we would love to kind of switch off between different models. So this is not something that like our own model that we fine-tuned. We're using one off the shelf. However, we do have a lot of information for the AI in terms of like how the Composer Symphony language works, how symphonies are structured to try to make sure that it creates well-formed symphonies, lots of information about what is available and not in Compose, lots of like prompt engineering to make this compliant and so forth. And in terms of like determining these experiences, and this is definitely a work in progress. So if you have feedback, we'd love to hear it to keep improving. Okay. Let's see. There's questions about intraday. We will definitely talk about that, yes, because we would love to go more in that direction. Why did you decide to name these funds symphonies? It kind of adds a bit of confusion. That was a question from Yuri. So this is kind of going with Composer's musical theme. We went with symphonies really early on, and we have had to kind of stick with it. But probably the most likely way that people call these things is strategies, automated strategies.
I also see one other question from DD. He said, I'm very new here. Are we able to actually test the selections like paper, trade, and track? So as I was showing before, I can actually pull up from the previous ones I had, but you can see here, like, okay, this was actually, we'll do the live demo again here, but you can have the performance and the logic for the symphonies here in the AI chat, and it will actually back test the symphony. So you can, in terms of like paper trading, it's not so much of a paper trading of like live performance. You can create the symphony and let it run live, and you can see the data and like the live P&L and the performance. But it's a backtest plus out of sample performance that you can track on Composer.
There was a question from Josh. It's kind of scrolling fast, but there was a question about how you edit symphonies once you find it with one of, like, if you, let's say, build your symphony, it is the easiest way to edit a symphony is still with the kind of old Create with AI experience. So if you have a symphony that you've built or that you put into the editor, I don't know, Michael, do you mind showing like in Create, like if you go into the editor, on the upper right hand, there's Create with AI, and you can ask it, for example, like, get rid of all of these blocks and substitute with something else. This is definitely our kind of most stable editing experience, but we would love to build this into the main Trade with AI in the future as well.
But yeah, this is definitely still there if you want to use it to help with your symphony editing experience. Okay, so let's go back to this page and we'll walk through the make your own symphony prompt. Okay, yes, so here it's going to first ask me a question about like what type of automated strategy interests you the most. Okay, so let's choose dynamic technical signals. There's obviously a lot of choices. You can choose any one that's, relevant to your preferences. And what assets do you want to trade with this strategy? So let's choose like tech stocks for this one. Okay, one more quick question. Which approach do you prefer? So out of these, I am going to use the RSI indicator. Okay, so as it's thinking, I'll just give a brief explanation to kind of like how this works, especially the make my own symphony, how that works under the hood, or how it was created. So it was created by like running a clustering analysis of strategies that human users have built on Composer. The goal of this was to like identify common strategy patterns, such as a simple buy and hold, or like dynamic technical signals, and feed those categories and descriptions to the AI. So what the builder builds, I'm the builder here, but like what I built reflects real user built strategy types. So, okay, great. So it has outputted a strategy for me. And as you can see, like this, I would say this is probably the most out of the 3 prompts. This probably is the one that still needs some work. And as we continue to improve it, you'll see it become more and more sophisticated over time. But as you can see here, it's thought of something, and then it's kind of like going back on it and fixing it, and then seeing the issue, and then trying to create a solution for some of those issues itself. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, it does create a simple strategy for me. I can see the performance that's back tested here, and I can see the logic branch here. So I can also add to watch list, view fact sheet, and invest directly here. Okay, great. So that's the gist of the 3 prompt cards. We'll go ahead and also demonstrate just a use case of like using the chat box directly. So, right now it's around a little bit past noon, 12:30 here, Eastern time. So, let's say I want to make a trade today, and I'm going to ask it, let's say, because I have holdings in my portfolio, maybe I want to sell one today. So let's say evaluate my holdings. Which one do you think I should sell? Let's see what it says.
And maybe for those who aren't familiar, Composer is like any brokerage in that you can have symphonies, but you can also have individual holdings. So in your portfolio, you can also buy and sell individual stocks, ETFs, and crypto. So you can kind of use AI also to help direct these direct trades.
So here's what I got. So evaluate my holdings. Which one do you think I should sell? So it does, as you can see here, it does check my holdings. It doesn't exactly make any like selling recommendations, but it does give me more information about, what potentially I could consider for making my sell decision. So here it has like position sizing concerns. Open represents your largest holding, concentrated single stock risk, small fractional positions, performance watch, options, expiration. So I could take these into account. It has helped me come up with some of these ideas potentially, and I can make the decision a little bit easier instead of going through all my holdings and analyzing each. Okay, great. Should we do a little pause there and see if there's any other questions that we could answer?
Yeah, maybe let's start from the bottom just to make it easier.
Yeah.
So John W. asked, are there plans to expand weighting beyond equal specified inverse volatility weighting? Maybe other options like percent of RSI. So we actually historically used to also have market cap weighting, which wasn't used that frequently. So we took it out. But yes, in the future, like we would love to keep expanding the feature set and what is available to build. Deepakar asks, can we use machine learning trained model directly in the Symphony, maybe in future versions? Right. Yes. So right now, this isn't possible, but yeah. Maybe do you want to show the MCP server also? We're trying to give you as many tools and the API as well. Those are, I guess this is coming up. But yeah, there are other ways to interact with Composer that hopefully, if you do want more power all the way, right now, like those are available to you. And in the future, yeah, we would love to expand, but not directly. We don't have direct plans for that in the app right now. Ben asked, what about a timeout X days after a trade? Yep, so that is not available yet. But again, like we would love to keep expanding this functionality. There are some questions about selecting strategies that have low correlations, what you're holding. So that is something that we are thinking about for the future, to kind of run through all of your invested symphonies every day and to try to calculate historically correlations with other strategies to help surface strategies that are uncorrelated and performing in the way that you would like. So this is kind of in our longer term, but totally hear you. Like we know that a portfolio of uncorrelated strategies is many people's holy grail. So we want to help you do that. Eric asked about AI being able to edit a current symphony. Currently it's not able to. So yeah, so with the Trade with AI, currently it's not very good at doing that. But if you go into the editor, so it's under create and then editor, or create symphony. So that's new symphony. There's create with AI, which is much better at editing strategy. So if you pull up a strategy here and ask for changes, this is typically much better at it. I guess something in the meantime, for those maybe who didn't hear or weren't here when this was said, in Trade with AI, the Find My First Symphony prompt is actually pulling from some of the best performing live symphonies. So tracking people's actual live performance, we want to surface those strategies to people.
And that's this prompt right here.
Yeah.
Once you go into Trade with AI, you can click this. Like no questions asked, it will surface 3 strategies for you. And it's kind of like, you can think of it as like the I'm feeling lucky button on Google. Like maybe you're not sure what you want, but you just want Composer to just surface something or like give you something, right? And this is what that will do.
Maybe Alex asked, I'd like to see a cheat sheet for building symphonies from scratch. So we do have some help materials where we describe the different components that you have for building. Maybe we'll pull that up and share it with you, because we do have some documentation to help you. Although I completely understand it can be intimidating to start.
Yeah, definitely building is, there is a starter guide. I think this is probably the best one that we have so far. I'll share in the chat here, but you can see in some of those articles, it will talk about kind of creating or editing algorithmic trading strategies with Composer, how do symphonies work, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully that helps. Okay, great.
Okay.
Let me go back and let's talk about the MCP server first, and then and as well as the API access. So related to the Composer MCP server, I would say that this is this is our second Trade with AI workshop, and in the first one, the core focus of the first AI trading workshop was around the MCP server. That's actually on YouTube right now. You can check out our channel, the Composer channel on YouTube, and you will find the entire recording there. And we go into a lot of use cases of the MCP server there. But essentially, the fundamental use cases of the MCP server has been implemented natively inside Composer as the Trade with AI feature. And now, with the core features now implemented natively, you can continue to use the MCP server if you want more advanced functionality, particularly for AI trading automations. So you can, we have a blog post that we can share as well on how to use N8N and Perplexity to automatically monitor your portfolio. So that's one potential use case to set up trading automations with the Composer MCP server. And here's the diagram to show that. Running 1 hour, we have the Claude, we have the MCP server and Perplexity, and every time it updates, you can send a Slack message, for example, or any other platform that N8N would support. Yeah, so that's we're not going to go into too much detail here, but here is also a link to our GitHub repo to set up the Composer MCP server if you want to. But I do have to share that there's a fair warning around how reliable this is with the free tier of the Claude chat. Usually when I use it, I do have to use a paid tier to actually use it without running into some limiting warnings and stuff. So yeah, I would use a paid tier of Claude to use the MCP server. Related to the Composer API access, everybody actually does have their own API key you would have to access it in the accounts and funding tab. And if you go down to the API access tab, you will find your API key there. Now, the Composer API docs are available in this link here. And once you have your key, the API docs, you can begin to set that up yourself. And if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to help, and we will be happy to answer any questions on this. Okay, great. So I'll now turn it over to Anja to talk a little bit more about what's coming next with Trade with AI and other cool features on Composer.
Awesome. Okay, and then if you have other questions, keep them coming. We'll like fill the rest of the time with questions. Maybe I'll share my screen for this.
Yep.
Okay. So in Trade with AI, one of the features that we built out is this automated description of the strategy that kind of varies depending on your context. So because these are community built symphonies, like this one, for example, the name is quite cryptic. If you open up the fact sheet, so this was our prior experience, there is no description. So it's pretty hard to understand what this strategy is doing, which is why we built this to kind of give you more of a description. And in our new Symphony database, so this is composer.trade/trading strategies. These are publicly available strategies. So also, if you have friends or family who are interested in Composer and are hesitant to sign up, you can also send them here so they can check out some of these strategies before they sign up. So here we have this AI written description of what this strategy does, how it works, and the value prop. So if we open up this fact sheet, that's something that we're adding soon, is that there will be a new kind of description section here that is AI generated to help you understand all of these strategies that exist. And because the section is quite small, we're actually going to be redoing this whole fact sheet and reorganizing it to make it cleaner. So those are two things that are coming up. Next, as you can see, it's a bit confusing now that we have this Trade with AI and then this kind of legacy Discover experience. So we're going to be uniting them. This is already the case in the iOS app where there's Discover that includes Trade with AI as well as some of the top moving or most popular stocks and symphonies. So we're going to be doing that on web as well, kind of uniting them, but you will always have access to this full, what we're calling library of symphonies. It just won't be as prominent and it'll be a unified experience. Next, something else I want to show you is we're adding file uploads here, starting with image uploads. So let's say that you have a screen cap of your portfolio somewhere else and you want to bring it in. You could say, for example, build me a symphony based on this portfolio. And I'm going to add an example portfolio. I just pulled a screen cap of someone's IBKR portfolio from the web. So you can, for example, take a screenshot of your portfolio elsewhere. This is also coming to the iOS app pretty soon. So for example, if you have another broker and you just want to bring in your holdings or imagine bringing in your holdings into a symphony, that will be available soon. And I guess this brings us to another update. It is annoying to wait while the AI is thinking. So we're going to show you more of the thinking steps coming up. You're not just staring at a blank screen. Okay, and we should get a preview of the symphony soon. I guess while we're waiting, something from the building side, how we built this, we tried to put as many UI elements into the AI experience so that it's not a wall of text. So if you see some of those cards that show you the symphony or the backtest or the logic or the selections when you're selecting, we're trying to put as many things into the UI to make this one click, not a wall of text, and so on. So this is an example of the custom UI that we built for this. So this is showing the performance of this strategy that's built based on the screenshot, and then you can check out the logic as well. So this is just kind of translating into weights, and then you can follow up with this. So for example, if you wanted to add a risk on and a risk off condition, you could ask for that and it would rebuild the strategy. I'm just consulting my notes here. Something else is that, we mentioned we have direct trades in Composer. So you have symphonies, but you can also have individual holdings outside of symphonies. So I think Dollar Tree is probably an example of that. So this is something that I just bought directly. So currently, let's say I want to sell my DG position. What you're going to see is kind of a very simplified card showing that individual holding, but that's something that we're improving. So we're adding in a card that shows you the chart, shows you information about that holding. Okay, well, this is a bug, as you can see, a total work in progress. This is also, I just want to say, this is our staging environment, so it's possible that there's some issue here. That is one thing that we're working on. Another thing that has come up a lot is options trading. So we've recently introduced options trading, which you can see here. Oops. So we are going to be bringing this into the Trade with AI experience. So bringing in elements of the options chain, bringing in options trade, so you'll be able to actually trade in here and get some trade ideas. And then probably the most exciting and the longest term thing that we're working on, this has come up a lot even in today's chat, intraday trading. Obviously, people want to do the same kind of data-driven trading, but on a more frequent basis than just once a day. And so the area that we're expanding into is intraday trading and giving you signals, trading signals of the same kind of things that you might be interested in, but letting you access those signals intraday and then make trades. So for example, if you wanted to buy something every time the price of an asset is above the 200-day moving average of the price of that asset to, for example, get alerts or to automate trades for that. Or if you have options open and you want to sell them when the price of the underlying stock drops to some level or by some percentage points to either give you alerts or to automate that. So that's kind of the long-term direction that we're going. And yeah, if you have ideas or feedback, we would love to hear because we think that's probably the most exciting of the avenues. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Couldn't have said it any better. So I think we're going to wrap it up there. And yeah, thanks so much for your kind messages in the chat there, and really appreciate your time for joining us today. We'll let you know once we do another one, but we've been doing these webinars and workshops pretty regularly, so keep an eye on the newsletters and our email. Thanks so much again, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much for your support. See ya.